No.
Okay, Mark, would you read the rules for virtual meetings?
Hi, this is a Financial Planning and Allocation Commission special meeting budget workshop on March 26, 2025, starting at 7 o'clock. This is a hybrid public meeting. The public can attend in person or electronically. The public may view the video recording of the meeting on YouTube at Town of Columbia CT. Please allow 48 business hours after the meeting for the video to be published. For public input before the meeting, please email your comments to publicinput@columbiact.org prior to 24 hours before the meeting. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping the video of themselves on throughout the meeting. If a member of the public creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of staff or the chair.
Thank you. Call to order at 7:02. And for those who are able, please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did everyone get a copy of the minutes from the March 19th meeting? Okay, does anyone have any comments, questions, or concerns about the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve.
Dick moves,
Also, I think.
Jeff second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Okay. So we will, today's meeting is dedicated to, budget workshop. We're, I think we first looked at the Board of Education budget. We all had their presentations last week. Does anybody have specific things that we can go around the room, specific questions that you want to have addressed regarding the Board of Ed budget? Let's be crazy and start on Steve's side this time. We always start on this side. Let's start with you. Do you have any questions or comments about the Board of Ed budget, or do you want me to come back to you?
No, I don't have any questions at this point in time.
Not for me.
I have a question, I'm not sure this, of the timing of this question.
Sure.
Each year, at least that I've been involved with, FiPAC, there's been at the end of the school year, surplus of maybe $300,000. And it just occurred to me to ask, can we project that this late in the year, perhaps? I know things happen, so, may not be possible, but if we have a projection, I would appreciate learning about that. And if we could apply to the end of the year, when we're clearer about the projections, we can apply that to the requested increase. Understanding that it may not that it would cover it, just say, okay, it's estimated to be $330,000, so we're gonna take it back from the requested increase. And then if it's more than that, we'll make out, and if it's less than that, then they can look at moving some money from another section. But I don't know if we've ever done anything like that, but it was clear to me.
Okay, I think that's a reasonable, we may not be able to solve it tonight, but it's a reasonable request to consider.
So not really.
Okay. Any other questions? Do you have any comments about the budget? Questions?
No questions or comments at this time.
Art?
No questions or comments at this time.
Just to piggyback on what Judy brought up, by us getting that $300,000 back, it's, give or take a few. Every year we're increasing the MBR to that 300,000 too. And then they're giving it back at a higher MBR. So it might behoove us to try and take that right out of the budget at the beginning and save on the MBR. Just a thought.
I agree. So, anything else, Jeff?
I,
Specifics?
yeah,
So I had asked for some information and I think Barbara, you provided it, this week. Do you want to talk about what this summarizes for everybody?
So the first inquiry that we both had was certified versus non-certified salary line in the Board of Ed budget. And so I was asked to provide you information, what, with including those positions, what the line would be, and taking that money out, what that would be. I think it is important to say, I can show you what it is to take out those positions. But the therapy positions are mandated positions, so they can't be eliminated. I spoke last week about how we switched them over to the salary line from professional services. By doing that, we are saving over $200,000 next year, which is pretty substantial. Additionally, what we can't factor in is we have hired a BCBA. Not only is this person gonna work directly for us, we can supervise her. She will be doing in-house trainings that typically we spend thousands of dollars for. She is what they call a trained trainer. So mandated trainings that our staff have to go through, we now have in-house, which is fabulous for so many reasons. We won't pay. Most of the time folks had to go out to Middletown, and a large chunk of people had to be trained in this one area. The STEM position, I put in there as well. You can see that like last year, the STEM position was cut. The impact that was felt, enrichment services to our gifted students, were significantly decreased, so we piecemealed the services for these students. Additionally, all students then did not have what they had in the past for instruction. The STEM position offered a special or a related arts class, which is besides the learning benefit, it also provides a place for students to go while teachers have their contracted plan time. Any questions on those positions before I go farther? On the OTPT, BCBA, STEM.
So really, so I see that you're converting from contracted services to employees.
Yep.
Which I understand. I don't understand why the rates would have doubled on your contracted services.
So the risk we use is going up a minimum of 5 to 15%. So that's what the BCBA is going up significantly because that 144 was for 3 days of BCBA services. The OT, the 92,005 was for 3 days, and the PT at 47 is a day and a half. We are keeping OT and PT the same days. We found that those days are adequate. However, the BCBA, she would be going up so much because we now need 5 days a week, not just 3 days a week. So when you factor in the extra days and the 5 to 15%, that's the amount it would be. It actually should be 276 on the high end. So that's why it's going up. So for $94,000 in salary, we will be getting more than what we have now for 144.
Okay. And so you also hired someone last year so there was one additional, well, it's in this school year, but from last year's budget. So there's one additional hire that wasn't in the budget.
A non-cert. As of January 2025, we had a student need that necessitated the hiring of a paraprofessional. So
That's the only, I thought you'd said, last week.
So I think one of the things that I don't know if this is what you were talking about, but going on from those positions, and we are adding back an interventionist position. And that position, that
That's
wasn't,
not what I was thinking of. I was thinking on your charts of what you gave us, that you had one additional full-time equivalent.
the 1.0 that going up would be adding in the STEM position.
Now it was from last year to this current year, not the next year. I'm just looking if I can find it, sorry.
Yeah, last year I cut many positions. And sometimes I wonder too, in those count positions. If somebody goes out on maternity leave or medical leave, their position is added in as well as the long-term sub, so that might be. We did not add any positions last year, I'm positive. This current year, as of January, we added a paraprofessional.
So on your page, you said the 2024-25 budget was for 49.2 certified staff. And you actually have 51.3 certified staff during the 24-25 school year.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and
Increase it by
look at all of them, but it could have been maternity leaves, it could have been long-term subs, medical leaves. And I counted exact numbers.
So you didn't hire another certified person during the last school year?
We potentially did if we lost somebody.
Because it looks like two, it's 49 to 51. You budgeted for 49 and you had 51. So that's fine, I was just curious about that, and then you're gonna add another, you're gonna convert one of your teachers to an interventionist, and you're gonna hire a specialist.
Right, so it's one new position added to the budget.
Right, but it's really two new jobs, not, but bodies, there's only one body, but different jobs.
Right, so because currently first grade is in 3 sections, going to 2, so I have an extra body.
All right,
All right, so continuing on. So the interventionist, what we found is the amount of referrals to special education this year is substantially more than it has been on average in the past years. Once we have a referral to special education, typically that requires evaluations, meetings, there are legal constraints with that. So this year we've had to outsource some of our evaluations because we have to meet those legal time constraints. So we are hoping that the reinstatement of an interventionist will cut down on this, and in the future will reduce our need to hire additional special ed staff, and more so in the high school to pay for those services. And then the next line talks about that certified employee that was hired in January. And then here is,
can I, before you go on to the tuition, can I talk a little bit about the interventionist, like, what does the interventionist do that nobody else in the school can do, that allows them to reduce the special ed?
so it's a precursor to special education. If you have a student who is performing poorly, obviously his or her teacher sees that student and gives them extra. Sometimes students need to be boosted up, they need more intervention, tier 2 intervention or tier 3 intervention, which is required by law before the special ed process. So then they may take those student or students into a couple times a week to work on where are they having issues in their reading? Is it the comprehension? Is it decoding? How about mathematics? Do they have a number sense issue? Is it word problems? They dive deep into where they're struggling, give them intensive intervention. And the expectation is typically, once you have intensive intervention, you filled your gaps. And then you're right back into your classroom. So, and again, if you dip again, the intervention, you might need it this year, you might need it for a week. Then the next year, you might not need it. The hope with intervention is always to not need intervention.
Right, so, but so it is really a species of special education, because it's extra above the normal classroom. Which
But
is
it's not special education. It doesn't fall under the special education. It falls under general education.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, can I interject? I think I hear what you're saying, though, it is specialized instruction. It doesn't fall under the umbrella of special education, but it is specialized instruction in order to help students not have to qualify for special education, which would be more costly.
And do we get reimbursement for special education expenses to some limited extent, both state and federal grants, but we don't for this interventionist role.
Well, we get some Title I funding that we can use toward it, so there are some funding that we can apply to that.
Question?
I was just curious as to why we've seen such an increase.
Have as many interventionists this year as we had in the past. And my hypothesis is they're mostly parent referrals. So when a parent hears, oh my gosh, we're below reading level where we should be, something must be wrong. Parents, I'm a parent too, you panic. And you want to see what's going on here, so then you refer, because you're gonna get testing done, and that's IQ testing, academic testing, and any other issues you may be having.
There's still the COVID too. There's still a lot of kids with COVID that have struggled catching up.
Right. Missed instruction for those
I
times.
mean, it was a huge impact for those starting school, like kindergarten, first, second grade. It's, and then the bigger classroom sizes and not having them last year.
So the,
Sorry, go ahead.
so the interventionist in this case, so you said you had 3 first grade teachers.
Correct.
And I'm not trying to put more, so the third person, whatever, the number 3, the first grade teacher that is no longer, is it still the first grade teacher? It's the same person, just now she's an intervention, he or she is now an interventionist.
Well, it's
Does that make-
complicated.
that-
Yeah, there is an
do you understand what I'm
interventionist who was a teacher who became an interventionist.
That's what I'm asking, that's what I'm trying to figure
So
out.
she did,
Yeah,
but her class is still there, so there is a teacher teaching that class.
yeah,
So that position will be switched, if you will. It might not be that teacher, there's a whole legality of posting and all that.
but like the person who's now an interventionist that you're talking about, that is a wash,
Our-
is a person who's also used to be a professional teacher of a.
Correct,
Right,
so we
right.
had different interventionists in that position to start this year, and that person resigned. To be an interventionist, you have to have, depending on what type of interventionist, you have a certain certification. We posted internally for a reading and math interventionist pursuing a certain certification. An internal candidate had that certification, applied for that position, and she was interviewed by a committee and put into that position.
Oh, so this is just a pure interventionalist, this is not a person that got prior teaching,
Which are you asking about?
the one that you're talking about. that was
I'm
the one-
talking about a new person.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, that person. Oh, so this is totally
It would be a
different.
new person. Could it be an in-house person? It could be, I don't know. Could it be an outside person? I don't know. We'll see. I'm not adding the position to the budget.
No,
because It's already in.
Okay.
It's hard to think about it as positions and not people,
Mhm.
but that's what it is.
I was just trying to see if like, as time goes on and as we go, like, because I hear what you're saying, like COVID and all these other things have had a big impact. As we hopefully are not gonna need these interventionists as much in the future. Is this person like, was this person a teacher that is eventually gonna shift back into being a first grade
Yeah.
teacher, is what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Are they a certified teacher and can they be put back in the classroom?
Yes,
Yeah, versatility, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
that's where I was getting at.
Okay, sorry. But the answer is yes.
Other than a couple of classes that have 18 or 19, your largest class size is 16, so they're not big classes. I mean, I would wager to say Hartford has bigger classes than that, don't they?
Of course. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
Nor do we.
Not that we want to be.
Yes,
Hartford.
exactly. Nor do we want to.
I mean, they're pretty small classes. Statistically, the smaller class sizes, the students do much better.
Yeah, right. So, but. Okay. I have a couple other, let's talk.
Are you ready?
That was
Do
next,
you want to
yeah.
talk about the high school? So, high school tuition I was asked about.
Yes.
So again, these numbers change constantly because we had, you'll see what we budgeted for versus as of yesterday,
Mhm.
it's up. We've had some students originally say, I'm going to tech school. Then they say, oh, no, I don't, nothing is final yet. But these are the projected numbers of who is where. And that what we budgeted, where we actually are, and the difference right there. So any questions on that?
Do you know when the commitments are made? It won't be before the
They
budget
can
is
change in
done.
the summer. They're supposed to be giving us their final this month. But they can change their mind if they decide there's no legal way to not let them change their mind, even in August. Oh, rats, I don't want to go to tech. And then we have to accept them into one of our schools, obviously,
And they run
at any
those-
time.
They run the lotteries for the magnet schools all throughout. You can get accepted to a school in August. And if a student decides was gonna go here, now I'm gonna go there, the acceptances are all throughout summer.
It could go up, it could go down, because tech isn't here because we don't pay for those, right? So that's one of the things we don't know.
Correct.
The other risk with tech is, I mean, you can leave tech anytime, and then
Right.
say you wanna go back to it, and then we have to encumber more. Which,
And I was just trying to compare this to what we had budgeted. How many students you had last year?
So if you jump down to the number graduating out of high school and or aging out of special education, this year we will have 39. Yet our incoming eighth graders, we have 59.
It's an additional
Plus
20
20, yeah,
more kids, okay, that's what I was trying to get.
big jump you're out. And then lastly, outplacement, I was asked versus high school services. Outplacement costs, are budgeted to go down because we are able to keep the students, many of our students in the lesser restrictive environment. High school services is going up. We have 20 more, from this, we have more high school students. We always try to keep students in the regular ed high school and not do an outplacement whenever we're able to. That's always the goal of an outplacement, is to return the student to their district whenever possible.
Do we have to provide interventionalists for our high school students?
For special education, we have to pay for special education.
Is that what I asked? You said special ed is different than interventionalists, so do we have to provide our high school kids
It's
intervention?
part of our tuition.
Okay, thank you.
But it's not part of the high school services line, it's part of the tuition line.
Correct, because it's regular education, it's part of regular ed.
What's the, aging out age for special education? Yeah,
22, the
22.
year they turn 22, so if you turn 22 on July 2nd, the school year starts July 1st, you get a whole year.
Is that what changed last year?
Pardon me?
That was last year.
They
right?
just changed that, it used to be 21.
So again, that means that students can stay in longer. So
And it
you have-
used, right,
yeah,
Or come back.
I just like.
Or come back.
Come back, correct, which could add to cost.
it used to be on the
Yeah,
22nd
that's, I
birthday.
do remember, I know it changed.
Yeah, they keep changing it. I think in Massachusetts, it's 20, it's even older, so.
And so to that point, providing the kids all the needs now in elementary school is much more beneficial than having to take care of it when they're in high school and beyond. I know. I have to add that in.
Any other questions for me? Did you want me to talk
have
about the
math right?
surplus?
Because again, I didn't have the best math education, but I don't know that your tuition line is high enough. Because if you have 20 new students, it looks like the increase is roughly the equivalent of about 11 students.
So again,
Is that-
when this was budgeted and our budget was passed, we based it on those
Oh,
numbers that
'cause
day.
So now, there's more, so it's gonna go up.
So some families might homeschool, right? And then they decide, and then they filled out paperwork for homeschooling, say in first grade. Come high school, they decide, I want public education for high school. They can submit it. They weren't known back
Right.
when, and we have to
Right.
plan for it. So yeah, so
But
we based our numbers always on what we know that day.
Right, so the numbers that are actually in the budget we have are probably low compared to what we're actually gonna end up paying.
Correct, but it goes up and down, so.
Okay,
That's I just heard of a move that's occurring,
so you never know.
coincidentally, but not high school, but,
Out or in,
pardon me?
out or in.
Out. But this was not gonna help us in high school, but the family announced it, so maybe people move, people,
So-
then someone's gonna buy their dwelling.
Right, Art, did you have a question?
Do you want me to talk about the surplus for this year a little bit? I think we talked about it before regarding
Yes.
those grants.
Unless Art has a question.
No, I
Okay,
don't.
go ahead.
So remember, we received about $200,000 in unexpected grants last year. We also, our insurance came back much lower. So when it looks like we didn't budget properly, we actually did. If you were to subtract out those unexpected, benefits to us. So I just wanted to add that.
So you think there will be a
There might be
Budget
about
surplus this year.
300,000, would you guess?
Yeah, well, right now I put into the budget document, when we get to this, I put an anticipated conservative number of 200,000, it could be higher. Same thing with the town, I put and look at, there's some variances, so there's money coming back to the town, but my first run, I just went conservative, so.
And when will we have, relative to the town meeting, when will we have a much firmer number then, or will it still be very speculative?
It's
In end of
speculative all
May.
the way up into the summer, so, but I confirm up more and more as we get through. Because of April and May, so, we're not setting anything tonight or anything till really the budget passes, but. I'm gonna keep looking at it week by week.
But I'm thinking in relative to Judy's suggestion about if there's a significant surplus, maybe that's allocated to the next year's budget.
Well, right
But
now,
we can't do it because there's a disconnect in time.
well, right now, I'm looking at between revenue and expenditures is probably about 200.
Town, yeah.
Board of Ed and town revenues.
I can have a question about that. If we have a surplus, that goes into the fund balance, right?
Yep.
So then that would be available next year
To use it.
to use
No,
as we.
Right, we're just saying, we don't know that we'll actually get it all back, because it could spend it. If we had a tie, if there was a tie to the budget being, based on what they give back, that would be more meaningful. I think that was Judy's point, right? So, all right, well, we don't know if we can accomplish that, we can look into that more specifically.
Excuse me, okay? Is it okay if I talk?
All right,
Well, first of all, if I was to gamble with $300,000, I'd rather budget and get it back than have to go to a town meeting to find $300,000 for the money for more tuition. What we showed tonight in her numbers, it does go up, we don't know. We're lucky if we get 300 back. Sometimes it's been more than that. As it goes with the minimum spending, that is appropriated, it's not spent. So, I mean, I know we all say, well, it goes up and up, it only goes up because our tuition goes up, our costs go up, everything goes up, and our mandates go up. However, it's, we can't appropriate less than our minimum budget requirement, but it can be given back, so it's just, please don't, I'd ask you not to get hung up on that. Year after year after year, we have to provide more and more and more special education. My son can't read. Are you reading to him at night, mom and dad? I try, I don't have time, whatever it is, they need more help, great. Now we have another interventionist. It's the way society's going, so I would be very careful about saying, we can really get it down to $12 and, I'm joking, get it down to even or 100,000, but I could see us at a town meeting looking for, I got $500,000, it's happened. When we had to go for 450,000 because we had 5 people, 3 people, whatever, move into town, and one of them needed $250,000 worth of special ed services, so. I think the school budget, as much as we like to hear more and more and more how we can whittle it away, the mandates, the tuition, the fluctuation, my goodness, the special education needs that are out there. it's just so volatile and in movement. I think basically we do a pretty good job. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Do you have updates on the numbers from?
Everything's updated.
Updated in here?
As first.
Thank you.
All the year to date is updated as of yesterday,
Okay.
including all the utilities, the fuel.
So then I just had two very, mundane questions. You have legal services budgeted at 30,000. Do you really think you'll need that?
Hard to say, we don't have contracts, but we are in a litigious world. We do our best to do not use that. We have very skilled folks who are, do know the laws, but there are situations where we often have to consult with the lawyers.
Just wondering if it's an area we can reduce if we don't have known costs coming, and then is there any ability to transfer from contingency if if the town has a legal need? And they can't find the money in the budget for. So I don't wanna budget for something that we may not need. Here's when we have negotiations and we know we're gonna need it, that's one thing, but.
Where are we right now?
Well, on the legal services, I don't remember which line it was, but it's 30,000 is budgeted, we haven't.
You spent on 11. A little over 11,000, but that's up to January.
Right.
And we still have 5 or 6 months to go. So it depends.
I mean, on average, it's about 2,500, would you say? You were the average at?
I'd have to look, but it could be.
2,500?
It varies. depending on what's going on.
Some months are higher. This past month was higher.
Yeah, we're-
I can tell you that Barb and myself are extremely conservative before picking up that home. I mean, it's only when things are absolutely necessary, and it's still
well, it's
expensive.
just like the town that puts in about the same amount each year because you just never know what's coming.
Right, but we're budgeting for something, when we, at least on the town side, we have contingency, if we have a lower budget, it turns out we need more, we have the contingency fund, we can transfer it.
Yeah, the board of Ed does not.
Rather than budget for a higher number that we end up getting back, but it doesn't reduce the taxes that we raised. If we're putting numbers in just because we might need to spend them and we don't really think we will. All we're doing is raising taxes, 'cause taxes aren't going down next year if it turned out we didn't need to spend that money.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, as Steve said, if you budget it and you end up using it. I mean, if you don't budget it, and then you end up paying that amount, then you have to go and figure out how to get the money. If you budget it and you don't use it, it goes back in the fund balance and everything, it can be applied to next year's budget. So,
You still raise the MBR and you still raise taxes by 2 mils, so we could get this budget number.
well, I think there's other ways
Instead of
to
raising
lower,
it 1.5, maybe because you had a better budget number.
there's other ways to lower taxes, so. I mean, what, I had a question of that, let me ask that one. If we take out of the undesignated fund balance 2 mils, which would be a 1.2 million. And that would, right now, our percent is 18%. And that would bring it down to about 12%. Is there an issue with, and that's lower than we normally do. Is there an issue with having that amount only 12% in the fund balance? That would still be,
I
I think, 22.8 million.
I think we would have, I know that when we're been going out for financing and stuff, and I think it doesn't look good to have too low of a fund balance.
We just, are proposing, I guess you haven't approved the policy yet, but we were proposing for fund balance based on policy we're putting together, that it'd be 13.
13 to 6
minimum.
something like that, yeah. 13 to 7.
13%.
I mean, that's a good question. We definitely need to
We're
figure
gonna-
out how to corral.
We will need to take something out of the fund balance, and the question is how much can we take out?
Right. But also, we have the HVAC project that, those things always have overruns, so we're probably gonna have to take out of the general fund for that. At least in the short term. We've got all these roads and culverts and things, you end up always have cost overruns on those kinds of things. So we don't want to go down too low. So my other question was similar. You guys, Board of Ed has snow plowing and refuse. Why does the Public Works handle that?
I don't know.
Why doesn't Public Works handle that?
I talked to Public Works today, to wonder why we can't save $30,000 and have them do, plowing and stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to 6 routes next year for snow plowing because it takes a long time to do the plowing, as it's explained to me. And Beth wanted that here, you can answer that. I thought that we were trying to pick up a new vehicle in the capital for, Department of Public Works. We had 6 drivers. I thought maybe keep it at 5 and have us, the town, do the school. But Beth informed me that the 6 drivers will be needed to keep up with the town roads during winter storms or plowing or treating. And a lot of times we won't have the time to get them off the road or assign somebody to the school to be able to get it done in a timely fashion for school to open up, even if it had a 2-hour delay. So.
So would we have a contractor?
We do have a contract.
Yes.
But why couldn't that be in the Public Works budget as opposed to the school's budget? I mean,
I don't know, I'm not sure why it's much different comes out of our pocket.
Well, except the contractor, presumably if you didn't need them.
you could just not have
You do
them.
not have them, yeah. Versus this would go down to the
I'm
end.
sorry, say again, the contractor what?
If you didn't need the contractor, you could release the contractor.
Okay,
as
but
contract,
Bethlehem is
but this
on
would
here.
go to the NBO.
She's our director, she says she doesn't feel that they can do the plowing adequately for the school. Please ask her. Beth, you on there? Absolutely. I had
Yep,
that
I'm
question.
here. So my issue is, as a public works department, our main priority is to make the roads safe. So typically, we would have to finish treating the entire road system before we could address the school. So then you're looking at delaying school delays, or what would be a delay might turn into a cancellation because we're focused on getting the roads ready so the buses can run, not so much clearing the parking lots at the school. So a lot of times, as the superintendent knows, we're crunched for time to say, yes, the roads are ready, and then to have to call the crew back to address a parking lot with staff coming in earlier. It's would be difficult.
That would come in at the same, pretty, just a little bit before students and buses on a delayed open.
When they, staff come in, if you say you have a 2-hour delay, the staff come in an hour and a half delay?
They come in 2 hours after their contracted time, so if they're supposed to be there at 8 and it's a 2-hour delay, they come in at 10.
Okay, so that's fine, that's even better to be able to clear the parking. So I don't. I asked, I have to go by what my directors tell me.
All right, well, that's something we can think about. Actually, I don't think we need to make any decisions tonight. Are there any other questions about the Board of Education's budget before we go on to the town budget? Anyone? Okay. Oh, Jeff,
Question?
go ahead.
How many snow days are figured for a school year?
We just add them to the end of the year. This year we had 2 days off, like snow days. We had some delayed openings. But we had
Two
this
days
year.
that were canceled.
You also plan for 5. I think you should calendar.
Well, we don't really plan for them anymore. We just keep moving the calendar date further, into June. So this year we're getting out June 12th. Then we're gonna get out June 10th.
Okay.
We have to have 180 days, correct, what you can do about it, yeah.
Okay. All right, so before we ask questions about the town's budget, I think Mark had some adjustments that they were able to make and wants to talk about those donations.
Yes, one idea. Stephen, Beverly and I were brainstorming, we have LoSiP money every year. And we were gonna apply LoSiP to a previous project, but we thought it might be better because it's such a tough year with this budget to take the LoSiP money and apply it towards two of the capital projects that were in Public Works, which was slip lining of two culverts, which was a line item of $263,000. We could pay for that with LoSiP. Start the projects right now, because LoSiP will be in by June. We already have a LoSiP fund, we'll be adding another addition to it. So we could pull that $263,000 out of the 2025-26 budget, put it into 25. And that would reduce our request in this budget by $263,000. And the Board of Selectmen have approved that process to start. We have to secure the contracts. We're working with the vendor who's provided the best bid so far for those two projects to solidify that.
So that's the culvert on, third line down, removing that number.
Right, is it 263?
Yep.
Yes. So we can pull that out of next year's capital request. And attack it that way.
Okay. And then was there another?
There's another, Beverly will explain, out of the 499,000 that we had a town meeting to get going on the project and pre-order all our electrical equipment. It didn't come out as expensive as we'd anticipated. And we thought we could take 200,000 from that already authorized 499,000 and put it back in the general fund.
Well, I guess you explained it.
The mechanics of doing that, I want to elaborate.
Nice job pulling the string on that. Good for the Chris.
I was just teeing her up.
Yeah, because basically right now there's about $346,000 left in the HVAC fund from all the town allocations. We cannot include that in the bond because when we did the town meeting, we did not put it as part of the motion to get reimbursed with those funds. So that's basically money out the door, whatever we've been allocated. So doesn't mean we can't request it in the grant for anybody else. We can do that. But my thought was to put back 200,000, reduce the HVAC fund in capital by $200,000. That'll reduce the amount of money you're taking out of general fund to pay for next year's capital.
Okay.
So between that and the $263,000, you're reducing capital by $463,000, which actually brings us to a number less than last year. But you're actually reducing your capital. And then the last handout shows you where, and then up there, and it will reduce your mill rate increase to 2.5 versus the over 3 that we have in the original budget document.
So
That's
that's on
without
page,
taking money out of capital.
That's without taking money from the general fund,
Oh, excuse me,
bring down the mill rate.
page 27 of 31 in the staple handout.
Yeah, so,
And then on the back, page 31 of 31, shows the change in mill rate.
yeah, so full document does not take that into account.
It's a small 2-page staple document.
It's the very last number. Yeah, that's, we had it right there. No, go to the bottom of your pile there.
What's that?
Jake Kennedy's there, please. It's this one.
Oh, I didn't get that.
You didn't get that.
Look at page 27 to 31 and then look
Oh, I
at
didn't
it.
get the second page. That's
Flip
why
it
I
over,
did.
come thing.
Oh, I see. Okay, very good.
Yeah, so if you go to the last page, after I take out 463, and it brings your mill rate down to 30.69. So it reduces it by about 1 point.
Thank you. You appreciate that. It's a significant, huge saving.
What would the mill rate be if you decided to do that, 30 what?
30.69.
Not 20.
It'll be a little over 9% increase versus 12. And then, you know, if nothing else changes and you wanted to bring it down a little further, going from take a little out of the general fund based on the surpluses we have, you can bring the mill rate down even further.
So. Madam Chair, may I speak? This,
I don't know.
I'm gonna anyway, because I'm part of this board, they tell me every year, I love this, it says here 3.9 is projected to be the general fund on 6/30 on your opening page, correct?
And the,
On this page, the summary page?
yes,
So
that's,
3.
that's taken into account the projected variances that I put into the budget.
So does that include the
No,
260 low SIP and
No.
using low SIP? It doesn't include that.
no,
So it doesn't include that 400 that we just talked about.
no.
So now we're looking at 4.3.
Well, I have to put the numbers in, but,
Okay, 3.9. 3 good math and 4 more.
Well, no, it's only 200 that's being put back. The 263 is just not being added to the budget. It's only the 200 that's gone back.
200, the 200,
4.1.
that's, yeah, the 200, that's,
Correct. So 200 is coming out of that, so that's in, okay.
Right. It's going back.
So it would be 200 from the, or 250 from the electrical.
yeah, that'll go back in. The other one's just a shift.
All right, so that's 4170, something like that.
Right.
Well, yeah, you're not gonna see much on the mill rate page, because basically you're seeing that less is gonna get taken out of the fund balance as of July 1, 3.9 is from June 30th, so. Yeah, but less will be taken out next year, looking at this fund balance.
They haven't even decided what's taken out next
Yeah.
year. We could-
But if you take out this 263, that has nothing to do with your fund balance, because that's like a budget for next year. The 3.9 is as of June 30th, without taking into account anything in next year's budget. That's separate. It's two
But
separate.
that does take into account what you believe would be some surplus back from the town and the school. Right, so,
Yeah,
so you're telling me it's safe to say, we'll just keep working off the 3.9. That's what they'll work with?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So,
Are there other questions about both the presentation from last week and then the adjustments this week relating to the town budget proposal?
Which the board will have to approve that next week. If FiPAC's kind of consensus that you're fine with that, then we'll go to the board of selectmen next week and just get these changes approved.
I'll say one thing about that. Aren't you in essence taking that money that you didn't spend on the HVAC, the electrical, aren't you capitalizing it by putting it against the mill rate? You're making it a capital asset almost, and then writing it off a little bit by muddling it against the mill rate.
Well, are you taking it from a designated fund to an undesignated fund? Because it's designated for the HVAC, electrical right
Right.
now.
We're just gonna shift it to help pay, basically it's gonna kind of help cover the cost of, that's been proposed for next year, so it's taking it more out of the general fund, you're just closing out part of a project to apply it to another project. With the check. Which less comes out of the general fund to cover next year's capital.
No, I get how it reduces the mill rate and how you're taking it from one to the next.
Yeah.
But in essence, that originally was supposed to be there for expenditures of that asset. Right. And now we're using it.
But now we're gonna go out for notes and bonds to cover that now, so we don't need the 200,000. Because we're not using that money to pay for the notes or anything else.
You know, remember, we had to advance 499,000 from the general fund.
Yeah.
Because we needed to get started. on
Yeah, we
electrical.
needed
It turned out it
seed money
didn't
for the
cost us as
project.
much as we thought. So we designated 499, we only needed 399, is what in essence, layman's terms. Oh, so it's just that we thought we were gonna spend that money, we didn't need to.
Okay.
We're just drawing it back into the undesignated fund, right?
Just like if there's anything left at the end of the project and that line, when the project's completed, we're gonna do the same thing, we're just gonna shift it
Like
back.
if we had, contracted to buy a fire truck and we thought we were gonna spend 600 and we spent 590, we'd take back 10. Other specific questions about the budget? I have a few, but if anybody else has questions. Okay. So I have questions about a bunch of things. One is the senior center vehicle,
Mhm.
the expenditures for that. Do we,
You go back into this,
yeah,
so that's from memo from Bernadette, everybody has it. In your handouts from tonight, it was dated March 25th, Bernadette Daring. There you go.
Okay.
So really what that, you had asked about rides. And this school year of 23-24, she served 151 residents. Now, when she says 1,868 rides, that there and back, so you divide it in half, round trip.
okay,
But then 24-25, it was 93 residents, 1,393 rides, but that's not a full year.
Mhm.
Full 24-25, and 22 residents used WRTD because the rides were not available, and Lebanon Senior Center helped us with 4 residents. But what we're having trouble with is the residents needing wheelchair transportation. We have to use the 14-passenger van or bus to move a wheelchair resident to mainly a doctor's appointment.
Mhm.
And that wheelchair van is at the end of its life. And if we apply for a grant to cover the $72,000 vehicle, we'd rather have a SUV vehicle, back entry for a wheelchair, that'll be more economical in gas and more comfortable for the wheelchair person to get to their appointment. And then we would keep the 14-passenger van, but primarily, we have a wheelchair ride, we'll try to use the SUV. And it can take more people than just the wheelchair. It can take, I think,
2 additional.
5.
Ma'am? It's 7, I think, 4 or 5,
I think once you put the wheelchair in, you lose some of your seats.
So what we're getting in it, we're not just getting the wheelchair apparatus, we're getting a whole vehicle.
A whole new vehicle,
And we're getting 80% of that covered by a grant.
covered by a grant, right? The same grant we used to buy the 14-passenger bus.
So total, it's 15,000 for our share of the vehicle and 5,000 for our share of the driver.
Right, and we might not have to actually get a third driver. We're hoping we can keep using the same 2 drivers, but bring in a third as a per diem driver when one of the drivers is sick and not available, which is how we're doing it now.
Okay.
So we might not have to go for a full third driver.
And then what's the other
You would ask about the,
15,000 though? Because the
oh,
the increase is for 35,000, so if that's 15 and 5, that's 20.
Oh, it's the tables and chairs.
Oh,
The
tables and chairs.
The table, okay.
okay. And we're, originally the increase was much higher than that, but they cut back on the number of tables and chairs they're gonna do this year. They're gonna do the stages.
Alright, okay, that's helpful, thank you. And then, any other questions about that? Okay, what about the public works equipment, what is that
So
for, the 125,000?
that is
Not the
for,
road surface thing, I'll get to that in a minute.
so the equipment is the 550
part of 550?
The 550 truck, we have a 6 public works employee, so we need a
Oh,
6
so we
plow.
isn't available to do the
Right.
schools.
So, right. Correct. So it's,
No, not so correct. Be careful what you say you're on.
who is not available for
We're
school,
working things out.
but
So
right
we have a
now,
6th driver and a 6th vehicle.
right, and we're not going to a full-size dump truck. We're going to a 550 big pickup truck.
Okay, and that accounts for the whole 125,000?
That truck
That's it.
and was there a plow?
So that the sewer plow with that 125.
Yes, that includes a plow and sander. Yes,
That's
can you,
plow.
plow and sander.
Okay,
Okay. And a truck.
in truck, yes.
So we're not replacing one and getting,
We're adding them.
because we have another, okay, all right, that explains that, thank you. All right, now we can talk about road resurfacing.
All right.
Because what concerned me was we had budgeted. We budgeted 249 and spent 425. And now we're projecting 595, and then in future years. Somewhere like 787 and 595, so it's like going up exponentially. I'd
Right.
like to have a better understanding of
So
why that is.
if you look at this, and I'll let that give more detail, but this beta report we did, where we hired the beta company for the whole pavement management program. And this was in your presentation from last workshop, which is still in your binder, just back there. The key is this capital
Yeah,
plan.
see that, yeah.
And right now, to receive basically a 73 score. It requires 600,000 a year to be spent on your roads to keep up to us B- quality road system. So that, if you look at this next 2 pages I attached today. Which are these are all the roads we're gonna tackle next year and what exactly we're going to do for a pavement upgrade. Some of them are just some of them are full reclamation, where you're chewing up the road and repaving, doing the work. Some are penetrating fog seal, some are rubberized asphalt chip seal, and that can give you more details as to how those estimates were achieved and how she came up with the 595, which is also the normal crack and seal we do, the normal double line yellow painting and guardrail upgrade. So that accounts for 48,000.
But who was advising us before these people that gave us such ridiculously low numbers? If these numbers are accurate, why were they so low last year?
Different surfacing now.
Beth, do you want to address how we're planning on our future using the beta method?
Sure. The beta group was hired to evaluate our road network system to give us a comprehensive understanding of where we stand. In the past, we have under budgeted due to other concerns that we had larger trucks that needed to be replaced. We had culverts and design that had to get done. So basically we shifted out of our road network resurfacing to compensate for the larger ticket items. So we've neglected our roads the past few years, and that's why this year it comes in at a higher rate. The beta group has helped us to maximize our money. Typically in the past, we've done a mill and fill type treatment on roads. Just to give an example, Hunt Road, we're proposing to do the rubberized chip seal at 249,000. If we were to do the mill and fill, it would be 550,000. So this group has helped us reach out to contractors and experts and maximize the money we are spending to extend the life of our roads.
Given the numbers projected over the next 5 years. Is this something that we should be bonding for too? I
Some
mean, we're
towns,
talking
when
millions of dollars.
sometimes when they get behind in their road work, they do go to bonding, but historically, we try to pay as you go every year. Stephen has a thought.
Yes, history.
I could talk all night, I'm really refraining, so please don't.
Okay.
So, when you add 15 years to the life of a road by doing the chip seal, 10 to 15 years. You actually are getting caught up with your maintenance on roads that you have to strip away, mill and fill, redo. So, I think we've kicked the can down the road, we kind of piecemealed what we did, we used to spend 350,000 on paving every year, that was our previous DPW managers, directors, goal, do about 350. Well, then all of a sudden, asphalt went way up in price, so that was just an automatic, an increase. I think with the beta group, it gave us a plan. To be honest with you, I wish there was a beta group who told us about culverts and bridges 20 years ago, we wouldn't be in this crunch. I think this beta group thing and the plan that Bev has put forward with Mark and Bev and myself, whoever, it keeps us from having to bond by keeping it around $600,000. I know it's a lot, but it's the same thing we do with our fire equipment. Instead of buying one or two for bonding it $2.5 or $3 million, and then you gotta replace it in 30 years for $5 million, and it just, you talk about a roller coaster and always paying.
We're okay with them setting aside a little money every year to
Yep.
buy the fire truck in 15 years, and
Yep.
we're okay with, I think we're okay with taking care of our roads, but we're doubling the number of what we used to spend, so we have to think about whether we can afford to do that with basic tax revenue, or if there's a better way to do it, is
I
my
understand,
question.
I understand,
Not
but
that we don't necessarily have to do it, but is there a better way? With bonding instead of,
so you take another $10 million bond for roads. And some of them you'll be chip sealing and you'll get a 10-year extra life out of them. In 10 years, you'll still be paying the bond and you'll have to do, mill and fill on those roads. You're kind of, you're stacking payments. I think, not accountant, but
Yeah, the life of the asset should live beyond the.
well beyond the pay of the bond. And in roads, some of them won't. We're praying for 10, 15-year added life. We need 30 to 50 years, to beat the bond.
One thing you can look at, when you're looking at pave and mill for 26, 27, 27, 28, those following 2 years in a row, that's a $400,000, and that's another 400,000 in pave and mill. So in that sense, those might be 30-year roads that maybe throw those into a bond. But there's $100,000 cost to bond.
Mhm.
So you really want to throw it into a bond of a project you're already starting.
well, that's my point, is that we're
Yeah.
doing the bond anyways. If we
Right.
weren't doing a bond, it wouldn't make any sense, but if we are doing a bond, it doesn't
And
make
what we
sense to
don't
have-
know yet, because we haven't gotten the estimate for Doubleday, is whether we can put the HVAC and the 2 culverts and Doubleday in one bond issue, or do we have to do 2? If we end up having to do 2, because Doubleday is gonna extend out too far, then maybe we might consider putting 2 more roads.
We have 3 major roads that are in very bad shape. If we wanted to bond for those 3, because we can't have Doubleday with its complete fix onto the bond for the school, maybe that's an option.
Right.
But they're a total water evacuation and drainage and mill and fill or mill and repave projects.
So we want to keep these numbers in the budget. There's no alternative.
Well, there's always an alternative. I would like to keep them in the budget. I believe in what when we hired those people to do the estimates for us and tell us the condition of the roads that are out there. You know, we've met, we've planned, I think we have a plan going forward, and as we keep working at this, as FiPAC works at this, you know, I think your taxes are gonna go up. We've said it for a while. But I think we're getting to a number that, unfortunately, it's gonna have to be acceptable.
Because if you keep pushing off the routine maintenance on these roads, they'll be to a point that they're failure. And to fully reclaim a road, you're looking at 3 times, 4 times the estimates for these maintenance items.
That's kind of what we're looking at with Double Day, like, that's why it's so big, because we're looking at the whole.
There's other issues.
Two roads out of it already.
Double days, the big double days. the drain.
Beth, we took, is Mallard Point and the other one, did we take those out this year?
No, they're still in. paying.
No, we kept those in. We removed the skid steer out of my equipment, so I could keep the road budget intact. But there are roads, Aridoni, Doubleday, those are just the 2 off the top of my head that are at a point of failure that maintenance really won't help those. We basically are putting Band-Aids on potholes, fixing emergencies as they come up, but there's no point in doing a chip seal or a rubberized chip seal or crack sealing on a road that has failed.
All right, does anybody else have questions about the road resurfacing costs? Okay. I have more questions, but I'm willing to, it's after 8. We want to defer this to next week's meeting.
I would like that.
Yeah, but also, do we have to move to have the adjustments sent to the board of selectmen?
I would say if you have no issues with it or whatever, which I doubt you will, we have to bring it to the board of selectmen to approve the budget, their budget proposed budget. So if everybody's fine with that, then we'll just put it on the agenda and move forward with it.
I'm fine with that. Do I have to move for it? Do we have to enter a motion?
I think probably, yeah, you can say you want the motion to return the budget back to the board of selectmen to update for those changes.
I would enter such
Whatever I
motion.
just said.
Yes. I would enter that motion.
Second. What I say, there?
What you said.
So just the capital budget by 463.
By 463.
Of course, it's in there.
And then we'll do all the language, we might need to set a town meeting. to Do one of those, I'm not positive.
For the lowest of this.
Yeah.
The other one, you know, yeah.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
That'll happen April 3rd.
Is our next meeting? Oh, board's left meeting.
Okay, yeah.
Does anybody have any recommendations to the Board of Education of adjustments we'd like them to look at so that they can be prepared for next week? Or no recommendations for adjustment on Board of Ed? I mean, it doesn't mean we can't do it next week, but if they have if we have adjustments to ask, we should know sooner than later, so they have the time to talk to the full board. Anyone? Right, so, our next meeting is next Wednesday night, April 2nd.
That you should be all set now if you want.
7 o'clock here. All right. Good, thank you.
Yes, I'm motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I second. Adjourn at 8:10.